So look, the feat of LeBron James actually playing long enough in the National Basketball Association to actually step onto a court with his own son. And yeah, I know it was a preseason game, but it should not be underestimated as a major achievement for a wide variety of reasons. Just for a second, imagine if the Pittsburgh Steelers' TJ Watt actually played in the National Football League long enough to actually sack his own son. Look, at the end of the day, LeBron James, as we all know, has had an absolutely historic career. I've got some thoughts on him and Bronny James having the opportunity to play together this year. We'll get to that in just a bit, but first, some words from both LeBron and Bronny.
It's definitely a moment that I would never forget, and it's pretty cool. I mean, for a father, it means everything. I mean for someone who didn't have that, growing up, to be able to have that influence on your kids and have the influence on your son, to be able to have moments with your son, and then ultimately, to be able to work with your son. I think that's one of the greatest things that a father could ever hope for or wish for. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that first quarter, Lakers look pretty sharp. LeBron, year 22, looks like he's still in his prime. And so as you're watching from that standpoint, are you viewing him kind of like as your teammate? Are there thoughts that come in where, okay, he's also your dad? And then once you get out there, how do you kind of stop thinking about that and just think about, okay, where's the defensive rotation? Where do I go on this play on offense?
I'm always thinking about, that's my dad, because that's literally my dad. So I just go out there and, when I'm playing, he's just my teammate. That's all I'm thinking at that point.
Live from the Silicon Valley, this is the show that doesn't understand why the Los Angeles Clippers graphic designers decided to pull inspiration, if you will, from that old TV show called The Love Boat. I am just saying, historically, one of the worst graphics, one of the worst logo redesigns I've seen in the National Basketball Association in quite some time. All right, on today's show, we are going to talk about what happened the other night when LeBron James, in the second quarter of a basketball game, actually stepped onto the court with his son. Now, we're going to play some footage from the actual game for you so you can actually see it. I've got some thoughts and opinions on that. Welcome to the NBA Rundown Show on our underrated channel. If you haven't had a chance yet, please go ahead and subscribe. And of course, like this video. You are absolutely helping our channel grow. Now, in terms of the historicalness, as I make up words, of LeBron James actually playing with his son, look, this was a preseason basketball game, and we know that JJ Redick, the new head coach and former podcast co-host of One LeBron James, is actually probably going to have a 9 or 10 player rotation. Now, if you were to pull up the Los Angeles Lakers depth chart, and assuming everybody is actually healthy, you will notice that, of course, Bronny James is not going to be in that 10-player rotation, at least at the start of the season. And I think it's also safe to say that members of the media are probably going to mislead you a little bit. Now, I'm pulling up a graphic from the House of Highlights, which I absolutely love. It's a picture that actually shows both Bronny and LeBron, and it says 19 points. What they failed to tell you in that actual thumbnail is that Bronny had 0 points in the game, and LeBron actually had 19 points in the game. And if you're wondering, how many minutes did LeBron James actually play? The answer is 16. If you're wondering, how many minutes did Bronny get to play in that preseason game in the desert the other night? The answer is 13 minutes. In 13 minutes of NBA preseason basketball, Bronny James had 2 rebounds, 0 assists, and 0 points in the game. Look, I don't want to come down on Bronny James at all. There were reports out that the Golden State Warriors were close to actually drafting Bronny before he fell to the Los Angeles Lakers. I think Bronny is going to be one of those classic young basketball players that probably entered the NBA a little bit too soon and is absolutely going to need lots of reps in the G League. I think at the end of the day, that is the right thing for Bronny James to actually accomplish in this next season. Look, in his first season in the NBA, yes, I'm sure they will find a way to have Bronny on the varsity roster of the Los Angeles Lakers so that they can actually do what they did in the preseason game and people can run their stories and reports about it and mislead you in terms of how many points both of these players scored in a game. But at the end of the day, the reality for Bronny James is it's clear as water is wet when you're actually watching the games at this point that Bronny James is going to need some work before he's really NBA ready. Now, if the Los Angeles Lakers did not have such a deep roster, then I would have a different opinion on it. Yes, I absolutely believe that there's nothing better for a young basketball player than being able to actually get real reps in the National Basketball Association. It's like in the NFL versus college football. The speed of the game is different, and the same thing can be said between college basketball and the NBA. You have to get used to the speed before you can be successful in the National Basketball Association. And for Bronny, it's just very clear, at least in his first two preseason games, that at this point, he definitely is going to need some additional reps before he feels, and I hate to put words in his mouth, so I won't, but in my opinion, before it looks like he actually feels comfortable on the court, where he actually looks like a legitimate National Basketball Association player. Now, that's not to say I don't believe he can get there. It's just simply to say that is where we are at with Bronny James in this particular journey. Now, in terms of LeBron James actually using some of his nepotism, if you will, to actually find a way to get the Los Angeles Lakers to actually spend a second-round draft pick on his own son, he has absolutely earned the right to actually do that. Let me ask you this question. If Adam Silver, the commissioner of the National Basketball Association, had a son or a daughter who wanted to actually go into sports and wanted to be part of a major sports league, do you not think that Adam Silver would call up the HR department at the National Basketball Association and at the very least open a door for his daughter or son so that they could someday potentially follow in his footsteps? There is absolutely nothing wrong with LeBron James doing that. There certainly wouldn't be anything wrong with Adam Silver doing that as well. Now, in terms of what other cred does LeBron James have in actually pulling this off at this point? Look, LeBron James has won, as you know, NBA titles with the Cavaliers, the Heat, and the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James is the oldest person in the NBA for a second consecutive season. He is arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. LeBron James, while you might not think he changed basketball in the same way as Steph Curry has, he certainly did draw a significant amount of attention to the league and was a big part of the league's major growth. Go back to 2016 when the National Basketball Association signed their latest or the previously latest television contract deal. That was the year where the salary cap actually increased by over $24 million. And that was, of course, because of the new dollars that had been generated in that new $1 billion plus contract that the National Basketball Association had signed. fast forward to where we're at this point, and yes, there are a lot of great young players in the National Basketball Association ready to take that torch forward for LeBron James and the other greats that have come before him. But LeBron certainly has earned the right to find a way for this current team that he's actually playing for to actually draft his son, even if his son's not quite ready yet. That is what learning and education is all about, regardless of the actual industry that you're in. All right. So those are my thoughts on LeBron James, Bronny James, how we got here and where we go from here. Look, at the end of the day, that Laker roster, as I mentioned, is deep enough to force Bronny James into the G League. I'm sure the Lakers will do the right thing and have him up on the big team, the varsity team, if you will, for a good portion of the season. So he does have that opportunity to play in a real game with LeBron James, his dad. All right, that is it for today's NBA rundown. I want to know what you think, North America. You can drop your comments in. Seriously, tell me what you think. For the NBA rundown, I'm Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day. To the cool new music, we go.
This is Phoenix.